The day the sky burned red, Earth was silent. Cities stood still, clocks stopped ticking, and a billion voices were swallowed in awe and fear. Above them loomed the Varn Dominion, a species whose war fleets looked like cathedrals of obsidian, stretching for miles across the stratosphere. Their message had been clear. Humanity, your time is over. Your planet is ours. It should have been the end. But the thing about humans is, we never do what's expected. Jack Mercer wasn't a soldier. Not anymore. He was a third-generation mechanic from Iowa, a man who smelled of oil and coffee grounds, who hadn't seen combat since the Europa colony conflict. He was also someone who never forgot how to fight. Jack stood beside his daughter, Ellie, in their garage-turned shelter beneath the remnants of Des Moines. The city above was now a graveyard of steel and dust. Yet somehow, the flag of a fallen world still hung on the cracked wall behind them, tattered, scorched, and defiant. "You think they'll come down here?" Ellie asked, her voice hushed. Jack didn't look up from the disassembled fusion core on the table. They already did. Just didn't realize what they were stepping into. The Varn weren't like humans. They didn't occupy, they erased. Cities were stripped for raw material, libraries melted into glass, and Earth's orbital stations now flew the Dominion's black insignia. Resistance groups either fled underground or were turned into ash. Yet here Jack was, rebuilding something that shouldn't exist anymore. An EMP cannon retrofitted from a farming combine. "I don't get it," Ellie continued. "Why fight? There's only a few million of us left. We're not soldiers." Jack chuckled, a low, grim sound. "Exactly. We're something worse. We're cornered." Far above, in the floating capital of the Varn fleet, Commander Thyrix observed Earth with cold, split-pupil eyes. He found the silence of the ruined planet beneath them beautiful, predictable, clean. He turned to his science attaché, a twitchy-skinned creature named Kel. "Resistance? Minimal. 1 or 2 EMP spikes in the Western Territories. Nothing significant. They're scattered primitives." Thyrix nodded, satisfied. "Then initiate the full extraction cycle. Begin atmosphere mining. Burn what remains." Kel hesitated. "Commander, there was a signal. Brief, encrypted. Human technology. Not theirs, though. Advanced." Thyrix leaned forward. "Show me." The hologram flickered. A crude beacon signal. Then another. A triangulation pulse. And finally, a burst of energy far too focused for primitive tech. It wasn't military. It was engineering brilliance. Thyrix narrowed his gaze. "Send scouts. Find whoever is building that. If humans are still innovating, they're still dangerous." 2 nights later, a black pod descended into Iowa's darkness. 4 Varn soldiers, cloaked in adaptive armor, moved silently through the ruins. The faint hum of life, they traced it to Jack's garage. Inside, Jack finished welding the last node to the cannon frame. The power core thrummed with unstable fury. Ellie monitored the power levels. Both flinched when the sensor beeped, motion. "Close." "They're here," Jack whispered. Ellie froze. "Run Protocol Theta?" Jack smiled. "No, baby girl. We show them what Earthborn really means." He pressed a button. The garage roof split open. The cannon whined to life. Outside, the Varn team raised their weapons, too late. A silent pulse exploded outward. Not noise, not heat, asterisk frequency. Asterisk it shut down their suits, their weapons, their thought-link networks. They collapsed like puppets with cut strings. Ellie's eyes widened. Did we kill them?" Jack crouched beside one, tapping the helmet. "No, but now we've got souvenirs. And reverse engineering material." He grinned, eyes gleaming. "Let's call the others." 3 days later, across the ravaged heartlands of North America, word spread underground. The Iowa outpost had done the impossible. Captured Varn tech, live prisoners, and disabled a scout pod without a single bullet. Now Jack stood before a rough crowd in a subterranean chamber of engineers, hackers, former janitors, ex-Marines, and scared teenagers. "We're not soldiers," he said, "but we're humans. We adapt. We build. And we hit back harder than anyone expects." On the table behind him lay the dismantled Varn helmet, now converted into a signal amplifier. Ellie stood beside a jerry-rigged console. "Every time they've pushed us, they assumed we'd break. They don't understand. Humans only get dangerous when we have nothing left to lose." He turned to Ellie. "Send the message." She hit transmit. Across the planet, dozens of outlaw bunkers blinked to life. Circuits reactivated. Cannons powered on. AI cores rebooted with stolen code. The Varn hadn't conquered Earth. They'd just woken it up. In orbit, Thyrix stared at the data spike with a twitch in his jaw. Hundreds of energy anomalies. Coordinated. Simultaneous. Human. Kel stammered. This shouldn't be possible. We've suppressed their infrastructure. No, Thyrix growled. We suppressed their surface. Not their spirit. He pointed to the growing map of hostile signals. Deploy the Leviathan ships. No more scouts. We burn them all. But deep inside the belly of Earth, in tunnels they didn't even know existed, Jack Mercer whispered to his daughter. They've made their move. Now we make ours. And from a species backed into a corner, Earth readied to teach the galaxy its most ancient truth. Never corner a human. The first coordinated strike came at midnight over the ruins of Old Boston. A Leviathan-class Varn warship, a floating cathedral of destruction, descended with shrieking thunder. Its hull shimmered with particle shielding. Its cannons pulsed like the heartbeat of a dying star. To the Varn, it was a cleansing operation. But to the humans hidden beneath the subway lines, it was an opportunity. Ellie Mercer watched from a cracked surveillance drone feed inside Outpost Fenwick. They brought a Leviathan to kill us? She muttered, hands trembling over the console. That's overkill. Jack, behind her, adjusted the jury-rigged pulse transmitter. Good. Let them waste their best toys. They think we're cockroaches. Let's act like it. Indestructible. Unexpected. The first pulse fired. An electromagnetic burst shaped like a directed wave, tuned to the Leviathan's sensor frequencies. It didn't destroy the ship, but it blinded it. Panic rippled through the command deck of the Varn vessel. Captain Hyra barked orders in static split tones. Stabilizers down. We've lost targeting. Something from the ground, a technician cried, tendrils lashing in alarm. Impossible. They shouldn't have tech this refined. Yet the impossible was happening, again and again. From Cairo's tomb cities to the collapsed monorails of Sao Paulo, other outposts echoed Jack's strategy. Dirty tech. Improvised genius. Human cunning. In Paris, they used solar reflectors to burn out drone optics. In Delhi, old monsoon pumps flooded entire districts, drowning Varn hover tanks. In Alaska, they turned a hydroelectric dam into an EMP generator that fried an entire command ship. It wasn't war. It was chaos, intelligent, decentralized human chaos. And it was working. In the subterranean network beneath Iowa, Jack met with resistance leaders, if they could be called that. A former botanist from Ghana, a crippled submarine captain from Tokyo, an AI ethicist turned bomb maker. None were soldiers. All were dangerous. Central Command is dead, said Captain Aiko, leaning on her crutch. And maybe that's a good thing. No top-down orders. Just coordination through old internet channels and modified Varn signal boosters. Like guerrilla tribes, Jack replied. We don't need permission. Just purpose. Ellie projected a map of the Earth. Red marks showed Varn-occupied zones. Blinking green sparks were human counter-op flashes. In less than a week, they'd gone from silent to screaming. Aiko frowned. The Leviathans are adjusting. Faster than we thought. They're rotating signal encryption. Adapting. If we don't escalate, they'll patch the weaknesses. We will, Jack said. It's time we show them what we really stole. He nodded to Ellie. She tapped the console. A new schematic appeared. Part human, part alien. The design of a hybrid weapon. We cracked the Varn power cell containment, she said. Turns out, their energy matrix is shock absorbent until a certain resonance frequency. We hit it right, we turned their own cores into bombs. Portable bombs? Aiko asked. Backpack-sized, Ellie confirmed. And guess what? Their scanners can't detect them. Because they don't expect humans to build something this stupid. The room went quiet. Then laughter. Jack grinned. Let's give them a reason to fear basements again. Operation Rattlesnake began 2 days later. Human teams infiltrated abandoned Varn scouting stations, planting power resonance packs inside core vents. Some were disguised as corpses. Others were hidden in water pipes or ventilation shafts. The results weren't immediate. But when the first Varn ship over Berlin exploded in midair, without a single missile being fired, the Dominion took notice. The fleet's response was swift and brutal. Varn shock troops swept city ruins with seismic pulse sweepers, hunting any energy signatures. They leveled entire blocks in minutes. Even their own wounded were left behind. But they still couldn't find the humans. Because the humans weren't running. They were watching, recording, learning, and evolving. On board the Dominion flagship, Commander Thyrex convened his war council. They are multiplying, he hissed. Improvising. No central hub. No weakness to exploit. They're insects, another growled. No, Thyrex corrected. Insects follow hives. These humans are something else. They learn like viruses. Mutate. They turn broken tech into weapons. They use failure as fuel. Kel blinked. We cannot keep escalating. The fleet is stretched thin. Morale is cracking. Even the subjugated worlds are hearing rumors. Then we burn Earth to the mantle, Thyrex declared. No more strategic strikes. Total sterilization. Planetary scarring. Begin the Darkseed Protocol. Kel hesitated. But sir, there are still Dominion forces on the surface. Thyrex's glare was a cold flame. So, that is the cost of dominance. Back in Iowa, Jack stood with Ellie and Aiko, eyes fixed on intercepted comms. The Dominion was preparing to burn the Earth. Protocol Darkseed, Ellie said. Their final solution. They turn the crust into glass. It's not just war. It's genocide. Aiko gripped the table. How long? 72 hours. Maybe less. Jack's voice was low. Then we hit them first. One last move. The biggest yet. Ellie raised an eyebrow. You're not thinking what I think you're thinking. I am. They'd been holding something back. A piece of stolen tech too dangerous to test until now. The Varn neural mesh. A living code infrastructure that allowed their ships to think in unified pulses. If hacked, even briefly, it could turn their ships against each other. It's suicide, Aiko said. Jack nodded. Yup. But it might work, Ellie added. Jack looked at the display. A swirling constellation of warships. If we pull this off, we don't just win. We survive. And in the deepest chamber of the Earth, as the surface trembled with the weight of a looming apocalypse, a group of broken, brilliant humans prepared to hack the mind of an empire. Not with armies, but with defiance. The underground base shook as the first wave of orbital tremors rippled through the planet. The Varn's Darkseed Protocol had begun. Massive kinetic rods were dropping from orbit, penetrating deep into Earth's crust to prime the Scorched Earth Protocol. Cities weren't just being destroyed. They were being erased. But not before Jack Mercer made his move. In the reinforced control chamber under Des Moines, the final resistance team stood ready. Ellie tapped furiously at her console, neural lines etched into her palms from hours of interfacing with alien code. Aiko oversaw the sync stability, her lips tight and eyes locked on the fluctuating energy maps. Jack, as always, stood in the center, calm, collected, carrying humanity's madness like a torch. Is the mesh loaded? He asked. Ellie nodded. Spliced it into their fleet pulse relays. All we need now is a high-gain transmitter, and a miracle. Jack chuckled. Then it's a good day to be human. Outside, the last prototype was being raised. A tower cobbled together from old military radar, Varn communications nodes, and a radio telescope once used for stargazing. It was ugly. It was unstable. It was perfect. Commander Thyrex stood aboard the Dominion flagship, the Kroth-Zen, high above Earth's trembling surface. All over the globe, fault lines split. Oceans boiled. Storms spun black as ink. His expression remained impassive. Soon, he whispered. Soon we erase the virus. But as he prepared the final deployment order, his eyes narrowed. A signal, an unauthorized one, rippled through the fleet's mind space. It was faint. It was human. Kel gasped. Sir, our neural mesh, it's infiltrated. Something's in the command chain. Thyrex turned slowly. Purge it. Kel tried. He failed. Because the signal wasn't just in the mesh. It was the mesh. Back on Earth, Ellie screamed as her console flared. They're pushing back. Jack planted both hands on her shoulders, grounding her. Hold it. Just a few more seconds. All over the fleet, Varn warships hesitated. Their formation stuttered. Cannons fell silent. A Leviathan in low Earth orbit began to turn, slowly, ominously, toward the flagship. What's happening? Thyrex bellowed. Kel choked out. They've inverted our feedback loop. We're seeing ourselves as the enemy. Thyrex lunged to the control node. Shut it down manually. But it was too late. The hijacked Leviathan fired. A beam meant to split tectonic plates lanced through the Kroth-Zen. The flagship exploded in a wave of fractured mind space, tearing holes in the fleet's unity. Without Thyrix, the neural cohesion disintegrated. And then came the fall. Varn's ships crashed into each other, misreading ally for foe. Others lost control entirely, burning in atmospheric descent. The sky that once glowed red now shimmered with raining wreckage. Earth was screaming, but now it was in triumph. Back on the ground, the team collapsed in silence. Ellie sobbed into her hands, half from exhaustion, half disbelief. Jack fell to his knees, his breath heaving. Aiko dropped her crutch and just sat on the cold floor. They had done it. Not with armies. Not with gods. With rage. With grit. With hope soldered to wire and madness fed into alien code. Humanity had hacked a god's brain and made it eat itself. Weeks passed. The sky cleared. Survivors emerged. Varn warships, those that hadn't fled, were scavenged like ancient whales by the very people they came to enslave. Earth didn't rebuild quickly, but it rebuilt differently. Jack stood with Ellie on the hilltop that overlooked the crater where Des Moines used to be. Now it was a memorial garden, rough, overgrown, and beautiful. "You think they'll come back?" Ellie asked. Jack smiled faintly. "Maybe, but they'll remember." She nodded. "So what do we do now?" He turned to her. "Now, we teach our kids that when the stars come to break us, we make the stars bleed." Above them, the auroras shimmered, not from radiation or destruction, but from a new orbital array broadcasting to the galaxy. A signal in every language the stars could hear. Asterisk. "We are human. We don't die quietly. Asterisk asterisk. You took our planet, but you forgot what happens when you corner us. Now you'll never forget."